Hi guys, it's Alex. There have been serious geopolitical developments in this region. Many people have been asking about the implications for the UAE and the property market. That's why I'm making this video as a raw, uncut, sharing my opinions and perspectives on a very serious matter, but also giving a balanced and rational perspective from both sides. While you can probably see that I'm wearing warm clothes, I'm not actually in Dubai, and before I get all the hate saying that I'm away and I can't really reflect on this and analyze it properly, I actually left before because I had a nasal surgery planned. That went very well, fortunately, so I actually planned to go back straight after, and I kind of got locked in because of the situation that happened in the UAE, so there are simply no flights to get me back right now. However, I do plan on coming back straight away as soon as all the flights are ramping up, so I'm not avoiding it by any means. I really would go even tomorrow if the flights would be back. However, that is the case. Fortunately, the surgery went very well, so one thing ticked off the box, but let's get back to the topic of this video. And first, I want to acknowledge the risk that any escalation or military conflict in the region is serious. It naturally creates uncertainty and some concern, and we all know that markets react to uncertainty, and that's why I don't deny the impact. There is some impact. However, I want to take it analytically and calmly and try to give you my own perspective on the whole situation and how this is going to continue for all of us, at least in my opinion. First of all, I want to say that there are two different timelines of things developing after such events would happen to anyone. So there is obviously the immediate ones, or the immediate risk and reaction, and then there is also the structural long-term development. So let's take it from these two angles and assess them properly. On the short term, the financial markets usually react much quicker, and we've seen that from many of the UAE stocks actually dipping in this week, and I've seen some going down by more than 10%, which is kind of a normal reaction to the capital markets. However, usually the real estate is much slower to react, and it doesn't really even need to react if there won't be any consequences, as in if there won't be any repeated actions. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that, in my opinion, this was a one-off event, and while there is risk and there is also some reaction to this, obviously we've seen this and we saw how much media likes to emphasize and, you know, exaggerate, especially the Western media, because let's face it, it's everyone likes to hate on Dubai. I mean, that's a pretty normal thing. And I think I was reading the other day Wall Street Journal, and even they mentioned the same thing, that everyone likes and loves to hate on Dubai. However, that's one thing, and I think that's normal. It's a normal reaction short term. However, long term, it might not be the case, especially if these actions or these events will not continue. So if there will be some duplicate events, some more, more developments in the region, maybe we will see a different scenario, and I will definitely come back and discuss about it. However, right now, from the smart investors and my own clients who have built and are in the process of building large real estate portfolios in the UAE and also in the region, not only in the UAE, all the other countries that are somewhat affected, they haven't really stopped any of the transactions, and I personally haven't stopped mine. It's more of a pause and reflection on what has happened and how you can react. Because if you will react quickly and emotionally, this obviously won't lead with any positive results for you. I mean, it might be, but that's usually not the case. you have to take a step back, you have to calm down, to not probably read all the news outlets throughout the world. And we've seen so many fakes going on. I won't even start on that. However, that's not the point. That is still a perception, and we don't need to confuse the perception with the reality, because obviously in some cases the perception can make the reality or can influence that. And that might be the case if these kind of events would develop. However, right now, I don't see the reason of this perception actually affecting the reality that is in Dubai. Because what we've seen on the ground is that the defense systems have done an amazing job reacting very quickly to all the threats. The UAE government has also done a tremendous job to actually respond to this and be present and communicate with the citizens, not just do their job, but also show the citizens and the residents that everything is under control. So while I'm not saying that this will continue or not continue, I'm just analyzing what has happened, and this is proof, because we've seen that. We've seen the UAE leaders going through the malls. We have seen them going to the people affected by the debris in the hospitals. They have been present, and that is much better, or at least that is a big step towards giving confidence to the residents and the UAE citizens. Also, if we reflect on some past crises, I'm not just saying about the ones that everyone knows about. I'm also saying about the Strait of Hormuz disruptions in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Then there were some attacks in Doha as well. So after all these kind of things, usually we would have seen, even if you look at the real data, some dips, mainly in the capital markets. There would be people taking out their cash as well. However, usually this would bounce back and actually start growing even higher. So while I'm not saying this necessarily should be the case, again, this is all analytical talk. We need to reflect on what has actually happened and probably predict what could happen here. So in the case that the events won't really continue, at least concerning the UAE market, we should see a bounce back and even going probably stronger than ever, because we have seen proof that the defense system works. We have seen proof that the UAE government is present and will do anything to protect the country. So that could be the case. And based on the most recent news, where the president of Iran was himself saying that they won't attack the neighbor countries if they don't attack Iran, which I don't assume to be the plan of the UAE. And if that is the case, then that could probably be the last, dot in this sentence. And not only that, but also in this case. So this could be the last thing that happens. So after that, it's only bouncing back and going back to the normals. Now, if we reflect on the property market in the UAE, let me tell you what I've seen, but also what I think might happen. So first of all, obviously, short term, we would see some impact on the Airbnbs, and we can even see it right now. So even from just going to the Airbnb platform, we can see that the prices are much better than the last year, which means that probably there are not as many people planning their trips. Secondly, there are so many people who have canceled their trips. And I'm also saying from my own friends who come to visit Dubai, many of them, they cancel their Airbnbs until further notice, although all of them, they do plan to come back. So they just cancel them for 1 month or 2, and they would probably come back afterwards. And that's just from my friends. But I'm pretty sure that applies to most of the people. So definitely, if you're doing Airbnb, you are affected. There is no denial to that. So definitely Airbnb properties will be affected, and probably this perception could be there for some months. So this year won't be a very profitable year, considering also that now we're still in kind of peakish season. And if the summer comes, where is the even lower season, then yeah, you would see 6 months of really low profitability. On the other side, if we look at the long-term rentals, I don't personally see this to be very affected because, like I mentioned in some previous videos, there are many people actually moving to Dubai and they have moved, so they need to live there. I don't really see them just breaking their contracts and moving back to their home countries just because of that. Again, if this escalates, perhaps that's another story and that will be another video. However, as of now, I don't really see that happening. I see a lot of speculation and a lot of opportunistic behavior trying to say that they will, debate their new contract, new renewals. Maybe they will just ask for lower rents and so on. However, I don't really see the other side being as reactive to this. So I mean the landlords and the owners of those properties, I don't really see them reacting in the same way. On the contrary, I see them being a bit offended because people just try to be opportunistic and, they saw that this happened and everyone in the media is just emphasizing on this, and let's try to get some discounts, let's try to get some distress deals. It's not really nice. Even it's not the way that it should work. And I, as a property investor and a owner myself, if someone would approach me with that, I would probably not even reply to their messages or phone calls, because that's just not how it's just not how it works. So maybe you will see some distress deals, but I don't think this would be distress because of this case. It probably will be distress because they couldn't pay their payment plan, or they just couldn't keep up with, I don't know, the mortgage payments or something like that. So they really needed the money, they needed to exit from that, property investment. And that's exactly why you would see distress in sales, but not really because of that. So let's make it clear. For now, what I've seen from my own clients, investors, and people that I speak to is that investors will be holding a bit, and definitely there won't be, as much, talks and discussions about especially new off plans, which is probably right now not the best area. Probably this area will be most affected. However, if we even go to the XB Interact, we see that so many deals have closed yesterday, the day before yesterday, and before you tell me that these are deals that have been planned even before all these events, even those deals, they could be stopped, they could be paused, and they haven't been. So people still went on with those deals, and most of them, they actually had a pretty good capital appreciation from most of them. So just go to the XB Interact and you'll see what I'm talking about. So to wrap it all up, I just want to address all of you because I think you deserve my opinion on everything that's happening. I just wanted to acknowledge that this happened. This is obviously undeniable. However, also I want to address you and tell you that there shouldn't be as much panic as media tends to give to us. Rather focus on the facts than the speculation. And even when you're trying to close the deals, if you're an investor or buyer and you're approaching the sellers, don't really use this, as an excuse or so. And I'm not saying this because I am affected or not. I'm just saying that probably you're not going to be viewed professionally. That's it. So if these events will continue, if somehow this escalation will impact for the next few weeks, again, UAE, that's a completely different story. And you have all the rights to exit any investment or to even buy any investment. So it's an open market, you decide. However, I just want to say that, you need to watch on how everything is developing, try to be calm and rational, and only then all the decision making will fall into place and everything is going to work out for you. Nevertheless, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you related to many of the things that I said. If you didn't relate to some of the things or you just wanted to add some comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I really will read everything, and I'm curious to see how you view this situation. And yeah, continue to watch the developments of this case. And yeah, I hope for anyone who was affected by this, including me, because I actually was also affected. I wanted to fly back next week, but currently I can't. So for anyone who is affected, I just empathize with you, and I wish you all the best. And I wish all the best to everyone who is related to the UAE, and we will definitely emerge much stronger.